Hello, let's talk about Sorcery Part 2. If you need to learn more about how to become a sorcerer, how to unlock every word of power, sorcery workstation, anything about sorcerers, NPCs and their loot, please watch my first video about sorcery that is linked down below on this video description instead. In the second video about sorcery, I'm showcasing the words of power related to spellcasting only. In the third video, also linked down below in this video description, you can watch me showcasing the words of power related to alchemy and ritual magic instead. Anything shown here is subject to change, and possibly new additions can happen to the game in the future, so be aware of the fact that even how the spells animations look like in this video can look different by the time you are watching them right now, since I have recorded this video footage at an early stage of the patch 3.0. At this point you should have already unlocked a certain amount of words of power, crafted the sorcery related workstations and possess an arcane staff. You will become corrupted if you want to cast spells, and the more corrupted you are, the wider the selection of spells you will be able to use. But you will have to make a choice on when to stop increasing your sorcerer's power and focus on survival instead. I say that a sorcerer can be very dangerous, but as fragile as a glass of wine. To cast spells, place the arcane staff in your hotbar and select it. Then press the control key or another key or button you use to defend yourself or block attacks, and the sorcerer's stones should be raised. To cancel the spell interface, press the spacebar or key or button you use to jump or climb. Now aim at the correct stone to select the desired option, and in order to take the steps needed to cast the spell, press the action button or left mouse button to select the spell. Some spells require some reagents to be casted. At the time I have recorded the footage for this video, some required pouches to be casted, while others did not require anything. Some spells will ask you to be previously corrupted at a certain minimum percentage in order to be casted. Every of these spells will make you slightly, moderately or even heavily corrupted, depending on the type of spells you are going for. If you need some help on how to gain or get rid of corruption, I also have a video about it linked down below on this video description. Carrying consumable items that will corrupt you or cleanse you out of corruption can be handy in some situations where having dancers may not be so practical or there isn't a corrupted area nearby. You are able to remove the ongoing effect of a few spells only by following the same steps on the stones you have used to cast those specific spells. Only spells that act within a radius of an area, especially spells with an environmental influence, have the ability of cancelling the effect of the other spells of the same kind. For example, if you have already recently casted the Creeping Darkness spell in an area, and you or another player is trying to cast the Lightning Storm spell in that same area, one of those spells will be cancelled right away. However, any of those spells will not interrupt the casting process of the invisibility spell or any other type of spells that do not interfere with the area the spells are being casted at. Now let's take a look at each spell. Reveal Corruption. This spell will reveal nearby corrupted areas, objects and creatures. Select part the veil of time and space to glimpse the past, present and future. Then reveal nearby corrupted objects and those with arcane corrupted. This spell will give you a very small amount of corruption. Once you aim your arcane staff to the current location where corruption is present, it will glow whenever it detects it, so you'll know where it is. If corruption is not present, then the staff will not glow. Detect Resources. This spell will reveal uncommon and rare resources in the surrounding area, becoming easier to detect. Select part the veil of time and space to glimpse the past, present and future. Then focus on rare resources in the natural world, revealing nearby deposits to cast the spell. This spell will just give you a small amount of corruption. While it does not require the player to be pre-corrupted to cast, it requires one burlap pouch as a reagent to be casted. Imbue Wisp. This is pretty much a temporary torch. Select the Wield the Forces of Life, Death and Undeath option. And then this one. The sorcerer imbues a soul onto their own flesh, illuminating their path. This will give you just a small amount of corruption, and it requires one burlap pouch as a reagent to be casted. Embed Wisp. Also a torch that will be in a fixed place instead. Choose Wield the Forces of Life, Death and Undeath option. And the sorcerer imbues the soul onto a fixed point, illuminating the area. Like the previous spell, will also give you a small amount of corruption and costs one burlap pouch as a reagent. Cull of Nergal. This spell will summon a bad demon. Choose the Summon and Control Demons option. For this, you must be beforehand 20% corrupted, then use the Escalate option to proceed. Call forth a bad demon from the abyss. Performing this spell will apply on you medium corruption. The cost to cast this spell is about one cloth pouch. Conceal Corruption. a spell that will hide the physical appearance of corruption. Make the unreal seem real to trick the 5 senses option. Then choose to conceal the physical effects of corruption, at the cost of 1 burlap pouch. This gives you a small amount of corruption. There is also a spell to make you look corrupted again, by the way. Just follow exactly the same steps. The spell cost is the same as this one too. Invisibility Self. Become temporarily invisible to your enemies with this spell. Select the Make the Unreal Seem Real to trick the 5 senses option. For this, make sure to be at least 20% previously corrupted to cast the spell and escalate. Then choose this. The sorcerer channels the power of illusion to render themselves unable to be seen. This requires 1 cloth pouch. It's one of the few spells that will make you heavily corrupted, so use with caution. Just try not to cast this spell too close to your enemies because they are not that thumb. Ice Bridge. Summon a frozen bridge for your own convenience. Use the Shape the Raw Forces of Nature and Reality Self option. Then summon a frozen bridge to traverse a gap. This spell will cost you 1 burlap pouch and give you a small amount of corruption once casted. Slow Fall. Jump from a high place without suffering the consequences of fall damage with this spell. Use the Shape the Raw Forces of Nature and Reality Itself option. Then choose Conjure Gusts of Air to slow descent and make it safe to fall from any height. 1 burlap pouch as a reagent is required. This spell gives you light corruption. Mass Cull. This utility spell will massively harvest any resource node in the surrounding area. Select the Shape the Raw Forces of Nature and Reality Itself. Make sure to be previously at least 20% corrupted and escalate. Choose Harvest and recalls minerals in an area around the caster. 1 cloth pouch is required as a reagent. Casting the Mass Cull will give you a small amount of corruption. Call of the Dead. Cast a fog and summon undead to fight enemies along with you temporarily. Select the Wield the Forces of Life, Death and Undead option. While being at least 20% corrupted beforehand, you must escalate, but I advise you to actually be at least 40% corrupted before taking a further step into this spell, because you have to escalate twice. And then perform the spell, choosing Call forth a terrible fog and undead horde within. This spell requires one leather pouch as a reagent to be casted, and will give you some corruption. Mirror Mark. Create a replica of yourself to trick enemies, distracting them so you are not a target anymore. Choose Make the unreal seem real to trick the five senses. Make sure you are previously at least 20% corrupted to escalate. Then choose The Sorcerer splinters its soul to conjure a mirror duplicate that enrages enemies. Use a cloth pouch to cast the spell. Be aware that doing this will give you heavy corruption, and try not to cast the spell too close to your enemies, or they will detect you.
Don't make me hurt you, Wanderer.
Soon, my teeth taste your throat. You'll never return to your death.
Wall of Fire. This dangerous wall is something you don't want to stand too close to. Select the Shape the Raw Forces of Nature and Reality Itself option. Become previously corrupted at least 20% and then escalate. Choose Summon Molten Magma from the planet's core, causing it to erupt from the ground. You will need a cloth pouch to perform this spell, which will give you some corruption. Creeping Darkness. Summon a dark cloud around you which will strike fear on whoever is caught in it. Choose Shape the Raw Forces of Nature and Reality Itself. Become at least 20% corrupted beforehand, then escalate. Channel pure darkness and terror to surround your being. A cloth pouch is required. These will give you heavy corruption. Lightning Storm. Kill your enemies with lightning bolts, or make them go away with this environmental spell. Select Shape the Raw Forces of Nature and Reality Itself. Since you have to escalate twice, instead of just being 20% corrupted, become 40% at least. After escalating, take the next step by choosing to cast the spell and select Harness the Primal Forces of Raw Nature by calling forth a lightning storm. This will cost you a leather pouch as a regent and will give you corruption, even though at this point you must be already highly corrupted to perform the spell on its own. Alright, and it was all for now. I hope in the future we'll be having more access to spells. Thank you for watching.